talk to a group of people who weren't necessarily your friends or people you considered community, or maybe they were all the people who were important to you? Have you ever had to take a risk, ask a question, sing a song, give a speech, put yourself in a position to be judged and criticized? That, my friends, is what is called being vulnerable. Being vulnerable supports intimacy. It helps to build relationships. It does require courage. Recognizing vulnerability invites us to show compassion and generosity of both spirit and time. Our worship theme for the month of March is vulnerability. And during the month, we will explore what it means to be vulnerable and how we can recognize vulnerability in others. We can reflect upon the actions we take when we are feeling vulnerable, and we can also refine our ability to recognize vulnerability in others and respond with acknowledgement and allyship and service. And so, my friends, I invite you to come and worship with us this morning. I had a conversation with a 3-year-old. I didn't ask her anything. She just insisted on talking to me. And so she told me about The Lion King. And I said, well, what was it about? She really, really liked The Lion King. And I said, well, what was The Lion King about? She said that sometimes you have to do things that make you scared, and you have to do them because it's important. So, in the spirit of doing things, even when we're scared, because it is important, I light our chalice. And I invite you now, to listen to our music for the morning. The beautiful Chloe with a wondrous voice. Chloe Vaughn. Thank you so much.
And an arrangement by Kia.
Ah, woo! We have extraordinary talent in this church and wondrous musicians. Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica, also known as UUSM. And what's our other new name now? The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica. So it shows you how liberal and welcoming and inclusive we are, because we've got 3 names and you can pick any one of them, whichever suits you. I am Kikanza Nuri-Robins, and I am your worship associate this morning. I am the chancel person this morning. And so, as we gather in this sanctuary and in our virtual spaces, we want to pause to recognize that our homes and the homes of most of our members and friends are located near sacred waters and upon the unceded lands of indigenous people. This is the traditional home of many people, including the Tongva and Gabrieleño and Vechureño. We remember their presence among us. We remember the painful histories of this land and the ongoing struggle for equity, justice, and sovereignty for all people. This is sacred space, and it sits on sacred land. So what does that make us? We are sacred people on a very special journey. So we're delighted to have you here so that we can walk together for at least the next hour. And so whether you have been here all your life or you are among the several in our congregation whose parents attended this church, whether you're here in the sanctuary or online, whether this is your very first time or you're a regular, we welcome you. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious movement that's open to all people. It's open to people who come from different faith traditions, different spiritual practices, people with no spiritual practice, but with a strong value for community and social justice. We invite people of all ethnicities and genders and orientations and abilities. Whoever you are, wherever you are welcome here. We have programs for adults and children of all ages, and so I invite you to explore our website, our it's not renewed, it's a brand new website, and lots of information there. Talk to our members in the courtyard or in the Forbes Hall, depending on whether the sun is out or not. And take a peek in our order of service, because we've got things listed there that are going on today. Our meetings are both online and in person as we navigate the shifting realities of COVID, and we recognize that some things can be done very effectively online. So my hope for you this morning is that you will find comfort and community and inspiration here. May this be one of the most significant hours of your week. Now, our service is going to be a little different today because the sermon is not Kikanza. The sermon is a video prepared by the Pacific Western Region staff. Who are they? So, part of our work as a congregation that's part of a larger movement is to strengthen our connections between the local and the regional and the national. So the video that we're going to be watching, in addition to providing an inspirational message, it will introduce us to our regional partners and give names and faces to those who are working on behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA, that's the national at the regional level. The Pacific Western region of UU World includes, this is a map, assume this is a map, okay. Washington, Oregon, California, what's that? Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. And Alaska and Hawaii, I don't know, I think they might have gotten dropped, but you know far more than I do. Okay, so Alaska and Hawaii. So this hardworking group of UUs do 4 things. They challenge congregational leaders, challenge them to be excellent, and they challenge them to help their congregations become more vital. They coach congregational leaders through consultation and training. They companion congregations through times of difficulty and times of celebration, and they connect congregational leaders to one another and to other institutional partners and to resources. And I know they work really hard because I serve on this team and I've worked with many of them, and we try hard to do good work. Sometimes we go to folks who are angry, or they get angry at us for speaking the truth that needs to be told, but this is a team that works with congregations to help communities become better at being who they are. So that's who's giving the sermon this morning. There will be several faces that offer reflections. Today, after service, we've got a couple of things going on. We've got lunches for bunches, and this is the group of people who prepare brown bag lunches for our neighbors without homes. And so you'll see folks probably out in the courtyard under the covered area packing the bags, and anyone is welcome to join them. If you consider yourself a visitor, we have a First Sunday Visitors Meetup, and that's going to be in the sanctuary anteroom back there, the little room back there. We've got a green committee meeting that's going to meet next to the sanctuary exit door. There? Okay. Inside or outside? Oh, outside. See, I would have missed it. Okay, so out that door somewhere, look for green people. And then we've got the women's community gathering, and that's at 12:30. It's going to be a potluck followed by a meeting, and it will be in the courtyard unless it's too cold. And then where will it be? In Forbes. Okay. So lots going on. We hope that you can hang around and be part of this wonderful community. And in this moment, I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, and then whatever posture you take, hold that posture for our covenant and our hymn of praise.
So we are singing 348, Guide My Feet.
Race.
Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la esencia de esta iglesia, buscar la verdad es su sacramento, y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en la libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión, así es como convenimos unos a otros. If you have a donation for the West Side Food Bank, this is a time to bring it up front to put in the basket or to send it up front if you see somebody walking this way. We have been, thank you so much, we've been partners in collecting food for the West Side Food Bank for many years. Thank you. Perhaps there's some, do we have food someplace else? We've got some willing helpers. Thank you so much. So if you'd like to donate food, we invite you to bring items that they use in large quantities, like pasta and pasta sauce, not the kind that comes in a jar because it breaks. Juice, granola bars, protein bars, breakfast cereal, things like that. So our service to the world is embodied here each Sunday with this simple act. All people, young people and adults, are encouraged to give every Sunday. It's one small thing we can do. So thank you. Our story for all ages this morning is by Kelly Carter Jackson, and she's the Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Wellesley College. And her story is Lessons About the Lion King. Yeah, so let's see what we can learn about the Lion King. So in 2019, Disney Studios re-released The Lion King, and this version of it was the computer-generated animals. So they looked real, but they weren't really. It's like, you know, cartoons on steroids. And so that's the one that we remember. And then before that, in 1997, there was the Broadway musical performance with those amazing puppets. And then before that, it was in 1994, the original animated film was produced and run. The Lion King is one of the highest grossing, longest running shows in history. People have been watching it more than any other show, and it's made more money for Disney. The Lion King franchise has grossed more than $8.1 billion. That's a whole lot of money. But what most people don't know is that the story of The Lion King is not just a great story, it's not just a good movie, it's not just a fabulous musical, it's a true story. The Lion King is the story of Sundiata Keita, who was known as the Lion of Mali. Sundiata was the founder of the Mali Empire, which ran across the middle of Africa. Let me see if I can do this in backwards. So the hump is over here, so it goes like this. And so Mali is right across the middle, the largest kingdom in West Africa. He ruled from 1235 to 1255, so 20 years. And you may have heard of his great nephew Musa, who was the richest person to ever live, ever, in the history of the world. According to Forbes, Musa's fortune was estimated to be $400 billion in current numbers. So let's compare. Warren Buffett, 106 million. Bill Gates, 115 million. Elon Musk, about whom we have mixed feelings today, 196 million, not even half as much as Mansa Musa in 1235. So they were Muslim, and one of the spiritual practices of the Muslim people is to make Hajj, to travel to Mecca to honor where the religion was founded, where the Prophet Muhammad preached and taught about Islam. And so during his pilgrimage from the nation of Mali to the kingdom of Mali to Mecca in 1324, it took a long time to get there because they didn't have trains or planes. And so they walked and rode on camels or other animals. And on the way, he built mosques and schools and libraries and gave away money. He gave away so much gold that the price of gold was devalued for the next 25 years. So that's like if somebody out there on the corner gave us all $200,000 as we left church, then it wouldn't be as much as if just, it wouldn't mean as much, it wouldn't buy as much if just one of us got the $200,000. So he spread the wealth as in his path. So his uncle was King Konate. And King Konate was the real-life Mufasa. The elders told Konate that if he took an ugly wife, as opposed to the most beautiful woman in the land, that she would give birth to a son who would become a mighty and magnificent king. So Konate married Sogolon, who had a beautiful spirit, even though she didn't have a beautiful face. And she gave birth to Sundiata. But Sundiata was crippled and he couldn't walk. So something was wrong with his legs and he couldn't walk. So he was the king's favorite, but because his mother, the queen, didn't have a beautiful face, and because Sundiata didn't have a beautiful body that worked well like most of the other people, they got teased and they got scorned, they were mocked because of who they were. So one day, Sundiata had enough. He said, I'm going to do something about my strength. And so he worked on getting stronger, and he was determined that he was going to walk, even if he had to walk with sticks or canes or help, that he was going to be able to stand on his 2 feet. So he did a lot of hard work, and eventually he was able to move on his own. And he became stronger, and ultimately people saw him as he grew up as the leader of his people. But this made his brother Dankaran really angry. Dankaran also wanted the throne for himself, so Dankaran had a different mother. And when King Konate died, many people thought it was Dankaran who had murdered his father. So Sogolon, the mother of Sundiata, was afraid for her son, and she was afraid for her other children. She thought they might be killed next. So she took Sundiata and all her children, and they fled to another country, and they left the kingdom without a leader. So the Mandinka people were taken over by the cruel and oppressive King Kante. But the Mandinkas remembered who their true leader was, and they knew when they needed him the most. So they sent for him and asked him to please return. So he was a man by this time. And they said, please come back and take your rightful place as the king. So while he had been in exile, he hadn't just been sitting around eating grapes. He built alliances with rulers all around Mali. And so when he returned to the kingdom, he gathered an army of allies to liberate the Mandinka people and to overthrow King Dankaran. So after his victorious return, he adopted a new title for himself. He said, I won't be called king, I'll be called Mansa, which means king or emperor in Mandinka. So in some ways, this history makes for a better story than what Disney presented. It's a story of a mother who protected her family by fleeing to exile. It's the story of a disabled man who overcame tremendous physical and political challenges and triumphed by building alliances. It's about a kingdom in West Africa that eventually became the largest and richest empire in history. It's a story of how mother and son found strength in spite of their vulnerabilities. And it's said that Disney Studio based Simba's story on Shakespeare's Hamlet, the modern Lion King. But perhaps they were unaware of the epic of Sundiata that preceded Shakespeare by nearly 250 words. Historian Stephanie Camp says that Black history doesn't merely add to what we know, the history of the world, it also changes what we know and how we know it. We would all do well to learn the lesson Mufasa taught Simba. You are more than what you have become. Remember all of who you are. See, in history, forgetting is political. Some historians say we have not forgotten about Sundiata, we have merely chosen not to remember. The Lion King, whether it's the first one or the last one, is a powerful story of leadership, loss, vulnerability, and redemption. The success of the Lion King shows that many people are content to see Africa without Africans and Black culture without Black people. And that's our story for this morning. So we have lots of programs for kids in the cottage. You are welcome to stay here. You are welcome to go to the cottage. Parents, you can walk with them and come back, or you can just send them on.
And let's sing our song of blessing.
And we will sing you out. And so we're going to move into the recorded part of our service this morning, starting with acknowledging joys and sorrows. We know that each of you come with joys in your heart, with sorrows that burden you, with celebrations to share in community. And we want you to know that we appreciate what you bring, and that when you bring joys and sorrows to community, it reinforces the bonds that we have with one another and reminds us that no matter how we are feeling in the moment, that we are not alone. We have pastoral care programs, we have small groups, we have many people throughout our congregation and many groups where you can talk to folks, you can share your story, you can sit, meditate, pray with one another. And so this morning, we invite you to lift silently your joys and sorrows as we shift, not in mood, but only in focus, to our video.
Whether you are attending this worship online or in person, I invite you to join as we share a meditation on communities of care and love. We begin simply by noticing our breath, in and out, in and out. Notice the rise and the fall of your chest as you breathe. You might put a hand on your chest and one on your stomach, noticing your breath in and out. Notice the movement of your body as the air comes in and out. In and out. Now I invite you to roll your head around. Notice how that feels. Does it feel relaxed or stiff, loose, maybe painful? Gently roll your head, keeping your shoulders down and relaxed. Just simply noticing how that feels. Can you feel other muscles being pulled and stretched? Maybe in your back, maybe in your shoulders. Now as you breathe, lift your shoulders, holding them up. Oh, and releasing them. Lifting them and releasing them. In and out. In and out. Notice how it feels. Now notice the feelings that are inside of you today. With gentleness, tenderness, without judgment, just noticing the feelings that flow and crest and ebb like a wave. Whatever they are, just notice them. Are you anxious, joyful, curious or tense, fearful or worried? Just noticing. Now, without looking, think of the people around you, in the room or on the screen. Just notice there are people around. Each of these people is filled with their own feelings. Take that in as you continue to breathe in and out. Holding a wondering for what they're feeling today. You are all part of this community that is called to live with love and care for each person, whoever they are, whatever they are carrying in their hearts today, whatever they experience in the world, similar or different from you. Feel their presence. Take them into your heart. Notice the love and care in your heart for those around you. Notice how it feels to extend care and love to your community. We create a community of love and care together, each of us, all together. May we learn and practice how best we can be communities of love and care. Amen. And may it be so.
Reading for today is Gate A-4 by Naomi Shihab Nye. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal, after learning my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A-4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A-4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing. Help, said the flight agent. Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late and she did this. I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. شداوة شبتك حبيبتي؟ استنى شوي من فضلك. شو بتسوي? The minute she heard words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, no, we're fine. You'll get there. Just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him. We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him, then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found, of course, that they shared 10 friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up to 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mahmoul cookies, little powdered sugar, crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and two little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend. By now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green, furry leaves, such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around the gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. Amin.
I've spent a lot of time in airports during my ministry career. As Pacific Western Region field staff, my work has taken me from my home in Oregon to congregations in California, Utah, Montana, just to name a few. Early in my career, I served as developmental outreach minister to Alaska, and I would fly north on a regular basis. I have to admit, I got to kind of like my time in airports. I developed a system for being comfortable while traveling, and airports are a great place to people watch. What I notice in airports is both the variety and the sameness among people. I remember seeing a group of quiet nuns dressed in the garb of Mother Teresa's order in Calcutta coming through San Francisco. They were looking at the map, trying to figure out where to go next, the same map that I had looked at to find my gate that morning. I remember waiting for a flight to Orange County, where I believe I was the only person getting on that plane that was not going to Disneyland. Such a happy and boisterous crowd. The joy was infectious. I've seen people with faces puffy from crying, talking on their cell phones with family, making unexpected funeral plans. There was the time I was the one crying in the airport, trying to get to my daughter who went into early labor with her first child, the gate agents trying to get me on a sooner flight. Yes, airports are filled with the richness of human experience, a mass of humanity. Many are tired. Some are frightened or excited or filled with anticipation. For all but the most constant travelers, it's people having a day that's outside of their usual routine. One memory that makes me smile is a young German family in the food court. They had an adorable little girl who looked to be about 2 years old, and they were trying to get her to cooperate with moving on, like putting on a sweater or something like that. And there was squirming and fussing, and all the little girl kept saying was, "Nein, nein, nein," in that voice that 2-year-olds call on when whining no to their parents. Had to force myself not to laugh out loud in parental solidarity. 2-year-olds sound the same in German as they do in English. It made me wonder if I'd walked through the international terminal, if I would have seen and heard fussing toddlers saying, "Yeah, niet, 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 nein," when they were tired from traveling, in unfamiliar surroundings, maybe off their nap schedule from a long flight. Toddlers, in my experience, are very honest little people, and not ones to mask their feelings when under stress. Now, I'm not saying all people in the world are just the same. We have different cultures, different life experiences. Our joys and challenges can be remarkably varied. Some families are in the airport because they're visiting loved ones for a wonderful holiday celebration. Some are leaving an untenable situation in their homeland. But the voice of a fussy 2-year-old, sounding so familiar but in another language, it helped me feel connected to this family from another continent. I heard at that moment that this little girl felt the same need for autonomy as so many of her peers that I've met. I felt a deep connection with this family that I had never before seen, and that connection, I can't help believe, is a good thing.
The cookies, the apple juice, the smiles, the delight, it all started with an invitation. Over the PA system in the airport, an invitation to be a translator, an invitation to be present to someone in distress. Naomi Shihab Nye's narrator accepts that invitation, and over the next couple of hours, magic emerges. Not just magic between the narrator and the Palestinian woman, but magic between so many strangers. Smiling, connecting, receiving and giving food and laughter and sparks of joy. Over and over, life invites us to answer a call. Sometimes the call is subtle, like a whisper or a quiet glance. Sometimes it is mundane, like an airport announcement over the PA. Over and over, Life invites us to make a connection with a person, with a group of people, with an animal, with a place. And as we move toward them and make a connection, we can't know exactly what will emerge. Perhaps it will be just a quick perfunctory interaction and we'll be on our way. Or perhaps there will be cookies and laughter and so much more. Perhaps it will even change the world. The contemporary author and activist Adrienne Maree Brown invites us to get strategic about how we say yes to those invitations that life sends our way, how we move in relational ways so that magic can emerge. Adrienne's 2017 book, Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds, invites us to form and reform community with an openness to the grace and the magic that can't be planned for. That's emergence. Emergence, she writes, is beyond what the sum of its parts could ever imagine. She continues with a metaphor from nature. Oak trees don't set an intention to listen to each other better or agree to hold tight to each other when the next storm comes. No. Under the earth, always they reach for each other. They grow such that their roots are intertwined and they create a system of strength that is as resilient on a sunny day as it is in a hurricane. We are invited, she continues, we are invited to be that prolific and to return fertility to the soil around us. And what emerges from these cycles are complex organisms, systems, movements, societies. Nothing is wasted or a failure. Emergence is a system that makes use of everything. Adrienne Maree Brown's own leadership emerges from the intersections of all the communities she's in authentic relationship with: queer, Black, and BIPOC folk, scientists and science fiction fans, social change organizers and restorative justice practitioners, and more. She sees emergence happening in all of it. It's the way that complex systems and patterns arise out of a multiplicity of relatively simple interactions, she says. Like the powdered sugar smiles, the storytelling, the joy that spread in the airport that day. I invite us to think of those oak trees. Under the earth, they reach for each other. They grow such that their roots are entwined. How are we reaching for each other in this congregation? How are we reaching for each other in the United States as politicians sow cruelty and division? How are we reaching out and building connections instead? How are we reaching for each other beyond our border and across the world? What sort of things might emerge if we but built the relationships or the connections? The connecting is spiritual work, waking up to the ancestry DNA results that just came in for all of us, that we are each of us deeply interdependent, deeply indebted to all people and all life. Realizing that we are related to and in relationship with everyone and everything. Feeling awe and wonder and love. Love for this tremendous experience of life we share. Love for one another. Love for those who are different from us. Love for the creatures, the microorganisms, the earth, resisting with all our might the forces that tell us that we are separate, that they are other. The invitation to relationship is always calling us in different and surprising ways. And together, how might we listen and discover and bring into being something better and more beautiful than we alone could ever have imagined? Let's make it so. Amen.
And we cross thresholds from one year into the next, from one season to the next, out of some doorways and into others, across state lines, highways, byways, and skyways. We are moving through. From delight to pain to laughter to tears, from emptiness to fullness, to loss to discovery, we are crossing over. We become thresholds. You see, the spirit of compassion is looking for an entry point. The spirit of generosity is looking for a way in. The spirit of patience is looking for a place to land. The spirit of love is looking for a crack in the heart. At the same time, fear is on the same quest for belonging. Selfishness wants to stretch out. Anger and outrage are looking for safe harbor. Hatred is wondering if there's room. What are we making room for as we cross all these thresholds? As we take off, literally and figuratively, what are we taking with us? Not everything we carry with us can make it onto the flight. Think of your mind as an overhead compartment. You know there are some bags and suitcases you can't bring with you onto the flight. They won't fit into the overhead. You have to check them at the gate. Maybe we can lighten our loads and make more room in our overhead compartments. Perhaps we only need to carry what's necessary. That would be the things that are essential to our love and care for ourselves and for the people in our lives. We probably need some forgiveness in our overhead, some realistic expectations in our overhead, some gratitude in our overhead. As for the persistent complaints, the hostility, the petty annoyances, we can check those at the gate. They can be tucked out of sight. In the realm of our spiritual lives, these are beliefs and behaviors we can choose not to access. We can pick them up later if we want to, but we could also leave them to spin round and around unclaimed at the baggage carousel. As our transcendentalist forebear Ralph Waldo Emerson reminds us, within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is silence. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. I pray you will be a space, a threshold for the oversoul to reveal itself. The oversoul gives you the wisdom to know what to say and when to say it. Through the oversoul, you already have the capacity to align your deepest values with your actions. Because of the oversoul, you know what the truth of love is in each situation you encounter. Take heart and be encouraged. The unpredictable and impermanent nature of life itself has risen high in our consciousness and in our world. Yet we are not alone. We have each other, and we have the love that is large enough to hold each and every one of us, now and in all the days to come.
The airport as a metaphor for spirituality and spiritual practice. A lot to take away. Why do you give? What do you give? To whom do you give? Why do you give? Some people give money to church because they come from a tradition of tithing, and they give 10% of what they earn to church. Some UUs give 5% to the church and then 5% to other organizations that are doing good in the world. Some people give because they know that individual donations are the lifeblood of nonprofit organizations, and the church is a not for profit. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to make money. It means that you use what you earn and what you grow to continue to grow the organization. Some people give because this is how they leave their footprint, their legacy. Some people give to support the things that they believe in. Some people give as a spiritual practice, as an obligation of membership, as a way to build legacy, in gratitude for past blessings, to ensure that good works continue. I give because it is my moral and my ethical obligation to financially support the things that I believe in. And I give because I can't ask you to give if I don't give. So I invite you this morning to consider why you give, and if what you give is enough to support your why. And I thank you for even considering the question, why do you give? There are many ways to give to this congregation. We've got ushers with baskets that will be coming forward. There are lots of words up there that describe how you can give on your phone or online. So however it is you give and for whatever reason you give, we are grateful.
body or in spirit for our closing hymn. Now we're going to learn a new hymn today. And you might notice that we have new hymnals. We have new hymnals. They're purple ones. These are our Spanish language hymnals. And we are going to teach you one of the hymns here called Cansado del Camino. This is number 19. And we'll do it verse by verse. It's kind of tricky. But if we don't learn it now, then when will we learn it, right? We're investing on being able to sing this again. Let's do it line by line. Okay, this is the first line. 2, 3, and go. Cansado del camino. Your turn. 2, 3, and go. Cansado del camino. Second line, and. Sediento de ti. 1, 2, ready, and. Sediento de ti. Very slowly, the next one. 1, 2, 3. Un desierto he cruzado, sin fuerzas he quedado. Vengo a ti. Your turn. 1, 2, and 3. Un desierto he cruzado, sin fuerzas he quedado. Vengo a ti. Next line. 2, 3, and luché como soldado. Your turn. 2, ready, and luché como soldado. Next line. Y a veces sufrí. 1, 2, ready, and a veces sufrí. 2, and y aunque la lucha ha ganado, mi armadura he desgastado. Vengo a ti. Your turn. 1, 2, and 3. Y aunque la lucha ha ganado, mi armadura he desgastado. Vengo a ti. Okay, we're gonna do the whole verse, and then we're going to the chorus. Okay, 1, 2, ready, and cansado del camino, sediento de ti. Un desierto he cruzado, sin fuerzas he quedado. Vengo a ti. Luché como soldado y a veces sufrí. Y aunque la lucha ha ganado, mi armadura he desgastado. Vengo a ti. This is the chorus. Súrmeme en el río de tu espíritu. Necesito refrescar este seco corazón, sediento de ti. Súrmeme en el río de tu espíritu. Necesito refrescar este seco corazón, sediento de ti. Okay, line by line. Ready? 1, 2. Súrmeme en el río de tu espíritu. Just those 2. 1 and 2. Sur Mehemet, en el río de tu espíritu. Okay, this next one has a lot of words, so very slowly. 1, 2, and go. Necesito refrescar este seco corazón, sediento de ti. Ready? 1, 2, and go. Necesito refrescar este seco corazón, sediento de ti. That's the entire chorus. Are you ready? Sur Meheme. 1 and 2. Sur Mehemet, en el río de tu espíritu. Necesito refrescar ese seco corazón, sediento de ti. One more time. Sur Mehemet, en el río de tu espíritu. Necesito refrescar este seco corazón, sediento de ti. This is the coda. Sur Mehemet, Sur Mehemet, Sur Mehemet. And pop quiz in 2 weeks. Just kidding. Thank you so much.
Did my mic go off? There it is. So some of you may be saying, well, this is an English congregation. Why are we spending all this time singing Spanish songs? You know, it is an act of hospitality to be able to greet your guest in the language that they speak. We live in an area where many, many, many people speak Spanish. The United States is the only highly evolved, is one of the few countries that does not value second languages. You know, when someone speaks a second language, you say, oh, well, but you can speak English, why bother? So it is part of our liberal progressive tradition to be ahead of the curve and to at least be able to sing a song in another language. We learned Skinnamarink, Dinky Dink, and all kinds of songs with words that made no sense at all. So we can learn these, and these words make sense, and if you want to know what it means, look at the bottom of the first page, and it's translated for you. Or ask someone. There are people here who speak Spanish. They can translate for you. So we've had a deeply meaningful and long service this morning. Thank you all for your patience and for your participation. It is a deep pleasure to be a member of this community. And so it is time for us to go, and go knowing that the airport of your spirituality calls you. Go listening for that call to the particular gate where you will be invited to serve, or where someone will be waiting to serve you. Go in peace, my friends, and we'll see you next week.